Welcome to Heart and Hand, the Rangers podcast, the podcast that was delighted that we were playing again because it gave us something to talk about. This week on Heart and Hand, and the game was postponed. So welcome to Heart and Hand, the Rangers podcast. My name's David Edgar. I'm joined this week by my guest, Mr. Alexander Staff.
Hi David, how you doing?
I would have been doing a lot better had we had a game to talk about, Alex. I'm not going to lie. These winter breaks are long. Well,
yeah. It was a bit of a double-edged sword that way. Obviously, it would be nice to be able to talk about that, but I'm not going to lie, there was a small part of me, not just from a personal point of view because I was lying in bed hungover, but there was a small part of me almost glad about it because, rubbish weather, heavy pitch, big game coming up on Wednesday night, league campaign to kick off again. I feared the worst with some injuries with some of our players, I'm not going to lie. So
let's crack straight into that then, because we've got a few things to talk about, obviously. Being Rangers, the world of Rangers never stops. So although the game is, if you like, always going to be the tasty main course to chat about on our shows here, there is always a good buffet selection of stories to talk about. But I was going to do the Aberdeen preview later, but that kind of kicks us into it now. Is it a double-edged sword, to borrow your phrase there, in terms of, on the one hand, Aberdeen are back and they had a game and we didn't, so you would think that would leave us fresher. On the other hand, is it a case of Aberdeen maybe shook off the ring rust on Saturday and we haven't had that opportunity yet, and thus they would maybe go into the game feeling that they would be liable to make a better start on Wednesday night?
Yeah, to be honest, I think because of the level of opposition, and obviously greatest respect to Fraserburgh, but Aberdeen were playing a team in good form and a well-run team in St Mirren, and I don't know if you've seen any of that game.
I did.
I watched maybe the first 60 minutes of it or so before I had to leave, and they ran all over the top of them. Aberdeen really did. I was surprised by how open St Mirren played, actually. Aberdeen gave them a good doing. The scoreline was very reflective of it, but I thought that regardless, we probably wouldn't have played our strongest team against Fraserburgh, and it wouldn't have been the biggest test, really. We might have made heavy weather of the game, don't get me wrong, that could still have happened, but it wasn't a game which was going to get the sharpness up. So I think Aberdeen always were going to have that slight edge anyway. What we need to hope for, I think it will change the starting lineup for us slightly. Because now we couldn't give the new signings who need minutes, we couldn't give them 60 or 30 minutes or whatever on Sunday. So I don't know if he'll want to start too many of them together on Wednesday night because of that.
I think looking at it, the team that I believe will take to the field tomorrow, all fitness being what it is, and tell me what you think of this. I think we'll go 4-2-3-1, and I think we'll go with obviously Wes in goal, back four of Tav, Martin, Wilson, John, Goss and Holt in the holding midfield roles. In front of that, I think you'll get Candeias, Windass and Murphy, and up front I think you'll see Morelos. That would be what I think will be the starting lineup tomorrow night. What would be yours? Or Wednesday night, sorry, this is Monday.
Yeah, sorry. I think if we go 4-2-3-1, I think the only difference you'll see from the team that you've got, I suspect he'll start Halliday instead of Goss.
Okay, yeah, that's a shout. That is a shout.
I think he'll see Halliday as a bit more match ready and a bit more ready for the physical side of the game, because Aberdeen are that sort of team. They do like to try and impose themselves physically on other teams as part of their game. So I think he would maybe play that asset. I wouldn't be surprised if we get back to the diamond midfield for this one, though.
Who's capable though of playing the role the way McCrory does? Because I don't necessarily see anyone who's currently fit who can do it to that level, and I think it would be incredibly unfair of Murty to ask Andy Halliday to do it, for the simple reason is I think we've got an ample bank of evidence that Andy Halliday is not good at that single only holding player role. I don't think it suits him at all.
No, it doesn't. But what I think he would try and do is almost share that load between Holt and Halliday. Bring in Goss to sort of be the composed deep line playmaker. Probably play Holt deeper actually. Let Halliday be a bit more box to box, and then have Murphy sitting behind Windass and Morelos. It's interesting. Even Graham Murray seems to have forgotten this. Morelos hasn't played against Aberdeen yet.
Of course.
So it was Miller and Windass in the games when we played them at that point, because obviously Morelos was injured for one and then on the bench for the other. Even though Murphy said himself, we had Morelos and Windass up top last time. He seems to have forgotten as well. But so they, he's not played yet, and we know what he can bring to the team, even if he's not scoring goals. So he might feel a bit more confident in playing the kind of 4-2-3-1 and just having Morelos up there, because he's a bit better with hold-up playing things than anybody else we've got. That's the only two sort of teams I can see, and I do think that if he goes the 4-2-3-1, you said, I've got a suspicion Halliday will start in front of Goss, but I think that side, you're pretty close if we decide to go with that system. There's not, despite all the talk of a huge squad, we're not quite at the stage yet where, because of injuries, where it's too difficult to pick.
Yeah, there are still players missing, and to be honest, these reinforcements have come at a pretty good time, because if we were going into this without Goss and even the likes of Halliday back, but if we were going in without that and not having McCrory, not having Jack, then it would leave us pretty short in that middle area. I think we would certainly be struggling, and Aberdeen of course are quite strong in there and would fancy their chances. But I think one thing I'd like to talk about, Alex, is both of us and everyone I've spoken to, when naming their sides or talking about how they'd line up, all of them say Russell Martin is going to play. And that's not necessarily people who have been huge fans of Russell Martin in the past. I think a lot of that is because of the way that Graham Murray has spoken about Russell Martin, that I think it's become very apparent. And I know that some people felt when he arrived, or when we were linked with him before, obviously he's done interviews with the RTV and whatnot, that he was being signed as cover. And I didn't think so, because having heard them in I think it was Chelsea-Norwich Cup tie, he was saying he has to go out and get first team football, and I thought, well, the guy's not going to leave Norwich's bench to come and sit on our bench. That's clearly not something that would make any sense for him. And then when you heard Graham Murray talk about him as a leader, a wonderful professional, he's a guy that I really wanted here, I think it's become quite apparent that this is a guy that Graham Murray really wants to hang his hat on. He's certainly not bringing him here to be cover.
No, if anything, I actually wouldn't be surprised if he's, if it takes Lee Wallace longer to come back. I would not be that shocked to see Russell Martin as our captain towards the end of the season, given how highly Murray seems to rate him that way. We're not in a position yet where we can go and get a guy like Russell Martin and stick him on the bench.
No, we're not. That's true.
I know a lot of people don't rate him. I think, I know a lot of Rangers fans don't particularly rate him, but I think that he'll prove to be good. I don't know if he'll be great, but he'll prove to be good. He'll be better than a lot of people's expectations. And as I say, in that respect, we can't go and get a 32-year-old with his level of experience, playing in the Premiership and high-end of Championship for so many years, Scottish internationalist. No, we're not signing players like that to be bench players anytime soon. So, yeah, I'm pretty certain he's starting on Wednesday, actually, which is possibly slightly harsh on Bates, but I think that sometimes you improve the team even when someone is playing well, if someone better's available.
Oh yeah, I'm a huge believer in that. You pick the best players, even if it is sometimes harsh on especially younger players. I'm a great believer in that. But the other thing that I would say, when people, as you say, I don't rate him, I saw him play for Scotland, and that, understandably, there were certain games for Scotland where he was awful, but I think that was more to do with the team. I think you could go through all the players used in those matches and you'd struggle to find two or three guys who really acquitted themselves well in some of those performances. But if you look at, and this is obviously just possibly comparing apples and oranges, but I think it's comparing maybe green apples and red apples. I think that there is still a valid comparison here. If you look at Christophe Berra and the level that he's played at since he's returned to Scotland, guys who have had good careers down there, and you could extend that to Clint Hill, who came to Rangers and was completely over the hill, and that's not in any way a knock on Clint Hill, it's just a fact. He was age had taken its toll, and he still did fine. Wasn't fantastic, but did fine. But still, you knew that if he'd arrived 3 years earlier, he would have looked, like the best defender in the league. Berra's arrived, had a great start. Guys who are playing at that level should absolutely be able to come up here, fit in, and look like they know what they're doing almost immediately, because it is a higher level, but it does contain that same physical element that maybe puts off guys who come from better leagues but that aren't maybe used to that in-your-face physical challenge. And you get the impression that Martin should be able to handle that.
He'll handle that fine. Plus, he's the sort of player who doesn't tend to have long spells out or niggly injuries or anything like that. And a lot of that's to do with how well he keeps himself fit. And he's 32 now. He's not past that stage anymore. Where injuries start to take their toll. So Christophe Berra is a great comparison actually, because the two of them were playing at a very similar level not so long ago, and both were considered two of the better defenders in the English Championship not that long ago as well. Berra's come up here for Hearts and been brilliant, to the extent where most Rangers fans must be watching him and going, we should have signed him.
Oh yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that.
Yeah, heard that loads, and that Russell Martin, in my opinion, has proven at club and international level to be a better defender than Christophe Berra in the past. That doesn't mean he's going to do it. He's not going to. Doesn't mean he's going to be better at Rangers than Berra is at Hearts. There's no guarantee there, but he certainly has the potential to be. If he comes in and makes a similar impact, Hearts on the back of 7 games without conceding a goal recently, for example, if he comes in and makes a similar impact, then for a loan, looking at potential free transfer at the end of the season is a very good deal.
Now, two players who appear to be at different stages of injury comeback. There was the very welcome news that Jordan Rossiter has returned to training, which of course is fantastic news for him personally, but also for the support. The other being that Lee Wallace is going to be out a little longer with his injury because he did an operation to tidy up a few issues that had arisen in his first. So, Rossiter, should we begin to get excited again, or is it a case of anything we get out of this lad as a bonus?
Anything we get out of Rossiter is a bonus, especially this season. I don't think he'll feature too much this season, even though he's now back in full training. And as far as I'm aware, it's full training. I don't know if it's kind of phased. But it would be nice for him to have a good run, no injuries up until pre-season, get a full pre-season behind him, and then next season he's got a couple of years left in his contract. After that, let's see what he's capable of. We kind of spoke about him before and said that it's starting to look very difficult for him to get to the stage where mentally he will be at his best, with all these injuries behind him. How long is it going to take him to get past that when he's on the pitch? This is the sort of time he needs now. He needs a bit less pressure. People will say, we should loan him out to get him games, but to be honest, I'd rather we kept a closer eye on him than that.
No, I can understand that.
Kept him around our training ground and made sure we were the ones in control of his training. I wouldn't be too keen to send him away, and as much as he might get games elsewhere, we don't know what the hell's going to happen after that. So yeah, hopefully anything we get from Rossiter this season would be a bonus, but I'm hoping that, where he stay fit, get involved a little bit this season, that next season's when we finally get to see what he's capable of. And to be honest, that's when decisions need to be made, really. You're getting to that stage after a couple of years, not that long left in his contract, that you need to make a decision either way, don't you? So I think that anything just now is a bonus, but hopefully in the future we can start to hang a bit of hope on him.
Now, Lee Wallace hasn't been somebody that we've spoken about much because obviously he's been injured for large parts of the season, but I was a little surprised. I think it was you that told me to go back and have a look at how much football he'd actually missed over the last 3 seasons. It was more than I would have thought, Alex, and there is a question, I think now, fairly or unfairly, but I mean this is based on, as I say, going back and having had a look at this and being slightly surprised that maybe Rangers should be in the market. We've got Declan John, but maybe Rangers should be in the market for a full time, like a first choice left back, because there are questions about whether Lee Wallace, now at his age and just the miles on his body, the wear and tear, if Lee Wallace is going to be that first choice, first team option. Because if it's a case of that if you like, your second choice is playing more over a season regularly than the first choice, you have to think about swapping those positions around.
Yeah. This is maybe reminiscent, actually, when you're doing the advocate year stuff on the Patreon at the moment. I think you might be surprised to look back and see how often Arthur Newman was out and Tony Vidmar played left back back those days, you know. There's a kind of similarity there in terms of, you know, here's a guy who is obviously the first choice left back when he's fit, but fitness is an issue, and he's at just over 30 years old age where these things can, if they start to pile up, become more of a problem. I think Wallace will be given this one to recover. You know, if he recovers in 5 or 6 weeks or however long it's going to take, and then gets a run till the end of the season, I think you'll just see him, you know, seen as the choice for next season. But if he has any sort of breakdown or injury again, then you would hope someone at the club, despite his club captain status, would be saying, we need a more permanent solution at left back. Declan John's got potential, but you know, we don't see him as first choice as yet. So who do we go and get? Because it's too vital a position in the way that we play.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
You know, both the fullback roles are too vital. We've been very lucky with Tavernier that he doesn't really seem to pick up injuries. You know, he's pretty consistently playing, and then when he plays well, he's brilliant. But Wallace on the other side over the past few years has been, you know, a bit
in and out. Team. Yeah, and then even when he's been in, there's times where I've been watching him going, I think he's carrying an injury at the moment, and he's never really had that run. Probably, I would say, since Warburton's first season, where he's looked fit, 100% fit. And I'm not saying he doesn't look fit as in due to unprofessionalism. I mean unfit due to carrying a knock and trying to play through it. Since really that first spell under Warburton, I don't think he's had a consistent run of fitness and being able to hit his best form on a regular basis. And that's quite a long time now. And Rangers, I think, might need to start thinking about, maybe it's a case that Lee Wallace is phased down. And I'm a big Lee Wallace fan, as long-term listeners to the pod will know. I don't subscribe to this notion of, he only stayed because he couldn't get a deal elsewhere. He could have got a deal elsewhere. And no matter what the reason for it was, he did stay. That's all that matters. He did stay at a time when we really needed a familiar face, as many as possible, to help, you know, with, we are not a new club, we are still Rangers, you know, and to remind us. And I'll always appreciate that he did that for us, and I don't care. People can associate reasons towards that all they want. I was just glad he was there, so I'm a huge fan. But there does come a time when you need to look at what's best for the team and the club, and I do worry that we're getting to that stage. I really do. Now, moving on to other sort of transfer rumours, one which completely came to an end is the long-running Stephen Naismith to Rangers thing, which I think we can finally put to bed, at least to the end of the season. But now that he has made his debut for Hearts at the weekend, and a few nice touches. I thought he looked short of sharpness, which is understandable, but a few nice touches from him in that game. He did look like the best player in the park, but admittedly, given the standard of football match that was taking place, I'm not sure how difficult that was. But I wanted to mention this because you spoke about Christophe Berra there. Stephen Naismith is another one where people say, we should have signed him, because the one I keep hearing about, he's a cert to score against us. And it got me thinking about this, because we can't have transfer dealings or a transfer strategy that is signing players to stop other clubs getting them. I don't believe that that's something we can do. And I do worry sometimes that people hear a name and think, we should definitely get him. And it's like, well, if we do that and then we also get player X and player Y, we're going to end up with a squad of like 53 and they can't all play. But yes, you're right, we'll have stopped Hearts getting them, but that can't, Alex, surely be a motivating factor in our transfer policy.
No, it certainly can. I completely agree with that. And to be honest, we should actually be encouraged at the fact that we knocked back Naismith because we went and signed Jason Cummings.
Yeah.
You know? That should be, surely, for years we've complained about this sort of thing. that we bring in players who are too old, no resale value, guys who have done it all and maybe don't have the hunger anymore. A lot of this might not have applied to Naismith, but the fact is, we went, as we spoke about in previous pods, if you're not going to sign Stevie Naismith, show us who you are going to sign. Jason Cummings, great, perfect. Yeah. That's the sort of strategy we need to see. And for once, the club in this window has given the impression, at least, that there's a strategy in place. We're going to approach things the best way that we can. And, if we don't sign a player, it's not because we can't afford them or anything like that. It's simply because we have other plans in place, And it's the first time in years that it's felt like that, a long time. So, in fact, possibly ever. So yeah, we should actually be encouraged at the fact that, Naismith might go and do well for Hearts. Personally, I hope he does. I hope he does brilliantly for Hearts, except for the games against us. Can take points off everybody else if they win. But it doesn't mean that we definitely should have signed him, because we've got Jason Cummings in, we've got Morelos there, we've got Windass developing and plays similar positions. It's like, well, do we just bring him in and hold these guys back? I don't think we should. So yeah, we should be encouraged by it. Similarly with Christophe Berra, at the time no one was complaining about signing Bruno Alves.
No, if we'd have signed Christophe Berra and it came out we chose him over Bruno Alves, at the time there would have been a storm of criticism. Absolutely, there would have.
Absolutely, yeah. But if we signed both and Fabio Cardoso, still had Danny Wilson about, Ross McCrory would never have got a game because he came in originally as centre half. That would have been even more options in front of him.
Bates, who's started
Bates
to impress.
Well, these boys would have been held back. So again, as you say, sometimes, Christophe Berra probably would have done a good job for Rangers, even if it was him and Alves. But we can't keep just piling player upon player, especially in our position.
Yeah, Naismith probably would have done a good job for Rangers as well. I don't doubt that. But you have to make choices, and if you look at the players that we have in that area, you've just said them there. Jason Cummings, Josh Windass, who's improving, coming on leaps and bounds this season, and Jamie Murphy, then getting Naismith in really would have just been because we can and it'll stop Hearts getting him, and I don't think that that's particularly healthy. And he may well score against us, absolutely he may well. I dare say he'll be champing at the bit to score against us, because almost as soon as we should sign Naismith chatter stopped, the immediate thing that came up was, we'll get him in the summer if he does well. And it made me realise that a little bit like, the Death, The Poor and Coldplay, the Stephen Naismith rumours will always be with us up until he retires. So I suppose I'll just need to get used to that and understand that that's always a possibility. Now, other transfer rumours, as we're recording this, no news of any deal for Greg Docherty, but clearly that's something that Rangers are still very interested in pursuing him. In terms, though, of potential transfers out, there's two I wanted to talk about, and I'll talk about three rather, but we'll talk about the two, I'd say, less interesting ones first, because I found the third one particularly interesting, quite a lot to it. But the first two are David Bates, who's out of contract in the summer and is attracting interest, or said to be attracting interest, from several English Championship clubs, one of whom is Sunderland. Now, a lot of Rangers fans are not huge David Bates fans, although I think that his performance in the Old Firm game and previously up at Pittodrie, I think, has maybe started to turn the tide a little bit on that among Rangers supporters. But from social media and even from friends of mine and yours, Alex, and mutual friends, there's been really Championship clubs in England want David Bates. And to me, it's a case of, we're underrating one of our own players. The reason they want him is because of his age and his ability, and that they're doing what we don't do enough, I think, as Rangers fans, which is they're looking at his positives and figuring, right, we'll work on the negatives because he's 21. We don't do that. We tend to just go, he can't pass, which he can't, right? I mean, he absolutely can't. He desperately needs to improve that. But if you were an English club down there and you had that money and you've got this boy available on pennies, then why wouldn't you bring him in? I mean, what possible harm is there to do to bringing in a David Bates? Because if you can develop the excellent defensive nous he has, you're going to have a really good player. And if you can't, fine, no harm, no foul, you let him go. And to me, it's an example of us, I think, sometimes focusing on the negative, whether that's intrinsically a Rangers thing or not, or just a Scottish football fan thing. I'd like your thoughts on that.
I don't know if it's just Scottish football fans that do it. I think it's starting to become, just because people have got the ability to make a lot more noise now than they ever had in the past. I think it's starting to become a football fan thing, in general. But yeah, we do tend to focus on what somebody's doing wrong, what mistakes are they making. Somebody can do 99% of things well in a game, but that one mistake is then stuck with them for the next game. Oh, he always does that. You know what I mean? Like, well, 9 times out of 10 in a game he doesn't.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think that's maybe the case. To me, Bates is what, I think he's 21, 22 now, isn't he? Is he 22 yet? Young defender, played well in some big games, out of contract. I'm not surprised there's clubs looking at him. Whether they would firm that up with an offer, I don't know. And from his perspective, if Russell Martin does come in and take the place straight away, you have to wonder if he's thinking to himself, well, I don't know how my progress is going to go here, maybe I should go elsewhere. It'd be interesting, because he's obviously an ambitious boy. He made the move, took a chance with a loan deal from Rafe to ourselves, and he wants to progress that way. So it'd be interesting to see what his thoughts would be on that.
I think
does he see it as more of a career opportunity if he goes down south?
Yeah, and I can understand it, but I totally understand why clubs down there would be like that. I don't think any English Championship club is going for David Bates as the linchpin of their defence immediately. I don't think he's their star summer signing. I think they're going, okay, he's at contract, yeah, there'll be a slight fee because of the cross-border thing, yeah, fuck it, why not? And I get that, totally, and I do wonder if sometimes we need to take a little step back and say, let's try and develop these guys, because recent history is filled with players who've gone down south from Rangers who we've been quite happy to see the back of, and they've gone on and developed into expensive players. Charlie Adam, Ross McCormick, to name but two. And I think that we sometimes chuck the baby out with the bathwater. Another one in that same position is Bruno Alves, been linked with hapless Serie A stragglers Benevento. And there's no bid in, but the key word I've heard is yet. It looks as though Benevento, certainly contact has been made at some level to suggest, would you be up for this? And if signs were encouraging, they may well firm up with a bid, and I think signs have been encouraging. Our friend Scott, latterly of this parish, and listeners will know, in between, sending us abusive messages containing sordid sexual imagery, he pointed out that Alves has been a strange kind of tale so far, in that a guy with a huge pedigree, maybe a larger pedigree than we were expecting, not maybe, certainly a larger pedigree signing than we were expecting, arrives in the summer, and yet for whatever reason hasn't quite connected with the support in the way that maybe would have been expected, especially for a bigger name, who are usually afforded a little bit more time, Alex, before people make their mind up on them, because we so desperately want them to succeed. And Alves just for some reason hasn't quite connected with the support, nor has he been awful. It's not been a Conterman-esque for 6 months where everybody's like, could we please get rid of this guy? But I think if he did leave this window, I don't think there would be an awful lot of gnashing of teeth or wailing.
No, there wouldn't be many. I mean, I'm a fan of him, and I'm sure when he leaves, I think it's more when than if, personally, from what's been said. But I'm sure if that does happen, then I'll have plenty of debates about that. But those waste of time debates because the player's away anyway. But yeah, you're right. It hasn't quite connected, and I think some of that. There's two reasons for me. One, expectation was way too high. It was way too high. And if you look back, any defender can struggle in a team that isn't playing well. It doesn't matter who you are. If a team's not set up well, central defenders look poor. That's just the way that it goes. And you look at some of the goals that we were letting in at the start of the season, was down to kind of more fundamental issues than our central defence. You know what I mean? So that didn't help, because he wasn't living up to the expectations many people had for him. And then secondly, he's got that sort of demeanour where he looks just a bit too relaxed, Yeah. Just his natural body language. He looks quite kind of uncommitted. He's not. That's not the way that he is, but he looks it. But because of that, you add that to the fact that he doesn't seem to be playing as well as people hoped, and then suddenly it's he's not trying, he's only here because he wants a World Cup place. That might have been his main motivation. But if you think about everything that's happened since he signed, who he signed for, managers away, all the changes that have come in, and he's had about 3 or 4 different defensive partners in his time, all the injuries he's had to prevent him getting a good run in the team, it's probably not that surprising he hasn't quite hit the heights, really. But we won't afford him the time to do so, because that's just the way of it when you're a football fan.
I think as well, because of his age, that you kind of need guys, and this is an unfortunate pressure on them, but I suppose if they're arriving at that age, they'll be aware of this, that we need you to kind of hit the ground running, unfortunately, because how long are you gonna be about? Even if it'd gone well, you're looking at 2 years was the length of the deal. So there is that added pressure perhaps on an older guy that you've got to, I mean, Russell Martin's gonna get it now. He's going in, and it's a case of, look, we need you to do it now, not in 3 months. You've got to arrive and look the part straight away. So that'll be interesting to follow. Another one I want to talk about, and there's quite a lot to this one, Alex, is Alfredo Morelos. Started the weekend by being linked with a move to Bristol City by the Sun, and amusingly, that was shot down by Bristol City's chief scout in Scotland on Twitter 15 minutes after the Sun put the story up.
That was beautiful, yes.
If you want to have a look at it, it's a guy called Kirk Willoughby, and he popped this up to say this is bad journalism. As Bristol City's chief scout in Scotland, I can assure you Bristol City are not interested in Alfredo Morelos. So straight away that one get quashed, but clearly it means that you would at least hope that someone at the Sun had some noise that people were looking at Alfredo Morelos and hadn't immediately just jumped and made that up completely. Although if you were to be a slightly less charitable look at it, I suppose you could say that. But there was a story came out by Kris Jack in the Evening Times. Now, he's the Rangers correspondent, for those of you who don't live in Scotland. The Evening Times is the Glasgow local evening paper, and it has guys who cover Celtic and guys who cover Rangers, and he's the Rangers guy. And he does have a good relationship with the club, and he had a story with no quotes in it, but saying that Rangers value Alfredo Morelos at £10 million and aren't interested in selling him. Now, to me, what's fascinating about that is that struck me as Rangers, probably for the first time in a long time, maybe Alan Hutton, really, getting into the game by saying, and I might be reading too much into this, Alec, and I want you to tell me if David, this is complete nonsense, you've let your head run away with yourself. If it's a case of Rangers, I think, realising that they need to set and control the transfer narrative by saying to a friendly journalist, look, it would take £10 million. I don't think Rangers think Alfredo Morelos is worth £10 million right now. But what they're saying is to clubs who might be interested, we're not going to be easy to deal with. We don't have to sell this guy. We don't want to sell this guy. And if you're going to come in and bid, don't be coming in with 2 million or 2.5 and expecting a deal. You can fuck off with that. We've got no interest whatsoever in that. That's not going to tempt us. And also by being the first, if you like, to mention a figure, they prevent other people, be it journalists, whoever, because transfer valuations are just subjective. They're just a game. Someone comes up with a figure and decides. There's no scientific scale to do it on. Sure, there's certain things like length of contract or whatever, but at the end of the day, why is guy A worth 600 grand and somebody else is worth 850 grand? It's subjective. And Rangers, by putting that out there, have controlled that story, such as now if someone was to go and say the £2 million rated striker, well, it would be nonsense, because already in the public conscious, and more importantly in the football consciousness, is this £10 million figure. And yes, it's an overvaluation of a guy based on what he's done, but what I like is Rangers are valuing him on his potential, which we don't do often enough in Scotland. And to me, I just thought it was a very intelligent piece of business by Rangers, the sort we've seen from across the city for years. Now, sometimes laughably so. I think, Itzageri was a £10 million player, Rogic was a £15 million, all these players that go. But they do tend to sell players for more than we do. And it's not always because these players are 6-7 times better than the ones we are selling. It's just that they for years have learned that if you tell people that the stuff you have for sale costs a certain amount, they start to believe it.
Yeah, I think you're correct. I think that two things going on, I think, for me personally. Firstly is what you've mentioned. It's about kind of controlling that narrative, not allowing valuations to come from elsewhere, or certainly if your valuation is going to come from elsewhere, you're going to have to justify it. Rangers have said that Alfredo Morelos is a £10 million striker. Anybody else says no, he's not, and tell us why he's not then. And then that opens up a bit more of a discussion that people, let's be honest, a lot of people in Scotland don't want to have, because they don't really care about the kind of ins and outs of the serious stuff of football. They just want to be able to say something controversial.
Yes.
We know what that's like. But I think the second thing, and this could be quite smart if I'm not, overreading this as well, Alfredo Morelos looks like someone who at the moment, as much I think he's quite mentally strong, but he's still settling out of Scotland. Outside of, the training sessions and stuff, the only person you ever seen him pictured with was Carlos Pena, who's obviously now away. I don't know how well he's actually really settled. I think his family's just over here now. I don't know if that's a permanent situation, but I don't know how well he'd really settled. And you could see when he wasn't scoring the goals in that run, he looked really quite low. I hope that this is a move where someone has said, tell them that Alfredo Morelos is a £10 million striker, and he'll see that. He'll see that the club have supposedly said this, that the club aren't just willing to say, oh, he's worth a couple of £1 million. The club are actually saying, do you remember that story about Lee Griffiths being worth £7 million? Well, we think our striker's even better.
Yeah.
And it's like a wee arm around him, it's like a wee arm around him and say, this is how good you are, this is how highly we rate you. And players pick up on that stuff. They'll try and say they don't read the media and all that. I mean, straight away, Alfredo Morelos, his agent, was all over that story. So Morelos knows what's been said.
Yeah, and his agent, I should point out, did say that he is happy at Rangers. So to me, I think that you can very much read into this that Rangers want to retain him, and it will take a silly money offer to let him go. As you say, they've let the player know this through these channels to say, well, yeah, that is what we rate you at. We think you're a cracking player, which is going to be good for the boys' confidence. But like the way the media works in this country, Alex, Lee Griffiths' £7 million target, that £7 million figure came from Celtic, because that's what happens, with their players. They tell the media up here because they have a very compliant press, and a lot of fans in the media who will write just whatever they're told to. Celtic plant the valuations of their players. They put them out there, and it stops you reading things about the, £2 million rated Stuart Armstrong, for example, because they don't allow people who maybe don't have their interests at heart, which very few in Scotland, but they don't allow them to set that narrative. And to me, this is Rangers getting into, if you like, the modern transfer business where there's social media and there's whispers, and they have started to, I hope, learn that you control the narrative on how much your player is worth. You don't let people who may not like you set that, because once it is set, it's bloody difficult to shift it. I mean, if people are talking for weeks, even if you're not involved in the conversation, if people are going on about the 3 million rated Morelos, and you come out and say we think he's worth 10, then it's set in the public's mind and in the mind of football. No, he's a £3 million player, because everybody's been saying that for ages, and it becomes difficult to change that perception. And in football, perception is reality.
Yeah, it's probably doubly important actually for us from now, because we essentially had a car boot sale in the summer. We just took a load of players who were worth far more than we sold them for, and said to the English Championship, there you go. How much you willing to give us? I will take that.
Yeah,
we'll take that. Like ridiculously low fees for players that we should have got far more for. Even if those players weren't going to be ultimately good enough for Rangers long term, we should have still got far better transfer fees than we did. So that's why we're getting a £500,000 offer for Josh Windass, because clubs down there have seen our previous transfer dealings and thought, oh, they're an easy touch. So yeah, through knocking back bids like that, through setting a narrative, hopefully Rangers are getting to the stage, because it's what we desperately need to do. Our model has to be bring in players, develop them, sell them at big fees, bring in the next one, sell him at a big fee until such time as we can start to pay big fees again because we've got so much money banked. So we need to be better at setting big fees for our players. It has to happen from now. So yeah, hopefully, as you say, someone at Rangers has finally kind of got that message across.
Mark Allen, maybe?
I would hope so, yeah. As I say, there's the other aspect is that the players hear this sort of thing. So now you add that bit of confidence to somebody like Morelos. You also add a little bit of pressure to him. You know what I mean? You say to him, we think you're a £10 million striker. Are you going to go and prove it? You know?
Yeah.
And that's not such a bad thing to do either.
No,
really.
That's not unhealthy.
If you think he's got the ability and mental strength to handle that, then why wouldn't you? So yeah, I think that we're certainly doing a bit better, and it also quashes any nonsense about us having to sell, you know, because if someone was genuinely interested in Morelos and was willing to offer half of that sort of figure, if we were desperate to sell, we would have taken it.
Oh God, yeah, we'd be punting him out. We wouldn't be setting huge, you know, like the silly figures like that. And I think at the moment it probably is a little bit on the silly side, 10 million. But again, we don't need to sell him. He's under contract for a while. We've only recently purchased him. He's doing well. The fans like him. You know, you don't need to sell him. I used the euphemism earlier about, the simile earlier about the. It's kind of like if you own your house and it's worth 250 grand and you don't want to move. If someone offers you 250 grand, you're not going to sell it. If someone comes in and offers you 750 grand, you're going to go, fuck it, yes. You know, because there comes a point when a deal just makes too much financial sense. And that's kind of where we are with Alfredo Morelos. Listen, Alfredo Morelos is a kid from Colombia who's played in Finland and he's now playing in Scotland, right? He's making his way in the game in the world. He's not going to be at Rangers for 10 years. I think we all have to accept that, because either he is too good for the Scottish League and we'll sell him, or he's not good enough for Rangers and we'll sell him. So what Rangers, I think, are doing quite rightly at a time when a player is doing well and is valued, is to place a value upon him and to start, if you like, creating that image in people's minds. And I think it's sensible, and I do kind of wonder if it's Mark Allen, because we haven't done it before and now he's here and we're doing it. So, you know, might be a case of me 2 and 2 equals 5, but it might also be a case of Occam's razor, that, well, you know, that's the change. You look at what's different, that's the change. And yeah, like I said, to me it's sensible, as you say, and I thought it was a brilliant point and totally agree. It's a fucking joke that somebody's coming in and offering 500,000 for Josh Windass, based on his age, his length of contract, the form he's been in the last few months. It's nonsense. The fact that he was rated in England before he left Accrington, he's still young. It is just, why would you do that? Why would you do that? It's way below market value, and it's because Rangers have sold players for 500 grand. They've sold Barry Mackay 500 grand, sold Waghorn for $1 million. And because we've done that, you're right, people think, well, there's no need to go in with high prices there, because, you know, they're always quite happy to do business. And then on top of that, we get the ever-continuing Timmy machine myth-making that we have no money, we're desperate to sell. So this kind of thing combats that. Yeah,
it does. It's exactly the sort of noise we needed to make. In my opinion, you know, regardless of, as you say, if you think it's ridiculous or not, transfers are just opinions, and we can apply this to our own dealings, you know, when we're trying to bring players in. I think me and you are more than capable of admitting at times that Rangers have lowballed offers.
We have.
They tend to kind of work our way up to where we need to get to eventually, or you know, wear someone down or whatever. But you know, we have lowballed. We've done that. Every club does that. That's fine. We understand that. But we're not going to sit there and say that Josh Windass is only a £500,000 player. No way. It's much more than that. And there was noise about Tavernier as well. And, you know, I'm hearing people saying, "Oh, we'll only get about £1 million for him." That would be an absolute snip if somebody picked him up for that. I mean, that would be.
He's got 18 months left in his deal.
Yeah, I know. It's not like it's tomorrow. You know, it's not like he's out at the end of the season. But and you know, and I get that it's only 18 months. But £1 million for somebody of what he's able to bring to a team would be an absolute steal. So. Yeah, it's about time we started to set higher figures. We might not get them every time, We might end up doing, being like if we don't time it right, it'll be like a Lovenkrands situation back in the past where we could have taken advantage of a good 6 months from him and made big money on him. We kept him, and obviously that didn't work out. But overall, as good a player as he was for us, it never worked out in the way that it was supposed to. But if we can get most of it right, and get some bigger fees in, that's the way we're going to progress in the short term, because ultimately European money is a wee bit beyond us, sadly, at the moment.
Now, before we do our predictions for the game on Wednesday and then head off into the sunset this week, Alec, I want to talk to you about an article that you wrote for your blog, Four Lads Had a Dream. Now, for those of you who may know, that's a new blog that's Alex started up with his friend Stevie Scott Clifford, and it's a very good source of news and info about Rangers, and obviously Alex being a part of it, I would clearly recommend that you go and see it. But Alex wrote an absolutely brilliant article last week, I felt, after the Jordan Jones controversy reared its head, when Kilmarnock accused Rangers of making a bid for a player that he should feel insulted by, and we were then treated to Kris Boyd coming out and having a right go at Rangers by saying that there's only one club who do this, who lowball offers, everyone knows who it is, they did it with Jamie Walker and countless others, and then he used it to have another pop at Rangers all the way through his article and accused Rangers of unsettling Jordan Jones. Alex, I'll let you take up the story from here, because I would just be stealing all your good points, which I'm willing to do, but you're right here. You're right. You're right there. It would be difficult.
Yeah. Ultimately, what inspired the article, and I should point out on that site, I'd like to point out that the majority of the work's done by Stevie. He does a great job there, and I tend to just put something in when I feel as though I've got something to say. Yeah. But
well done, Scotty.
Sorry.
Well done to Scotty there. A thumbs up.
But the point of that article was not so much about our bid being so far away from Kilmarnock's valuation, because as we've discussed numerous times already in this, transfer fees are opinions, and Rangers' opinion of Jordan Jones' valuation wasn't the same as Kilmarnock's. That's the way it goes. That's what a negotiation's all about, and you take it from there. The point was the reaction to it, the way that especially Kris Boyd made it sound as though Rangers are the only team in history to ever do this. No one seems to remember that Celtic went in with an offer of 110,000 for Stuart Armstrong to begin with, and ended up signing him for over $1 million. Or Paul Hartley, I think, was another one Celtic had done it with, and clubs do it all the time. I'm not wanting to point out, just them. It was just two examples that were brought up, but this is what happens, and we're on the receiving end of that to an extent here, with clubs offering so low for Josh Windass to begin with. They might come back, they might not, but they're nowhere near our valuation of them. That's football. That's the way it goes. But Kris Boyd used his voice in the Daily Record, and it wasn't. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, he definitely didn't write this." No, he didn't write it. But if you look at it, it was an interview rather than a column. This wasn't one where he's been phoned for an opinion and then someone's fleshed it out into 1,000 words. This was, an interview. It's a function that he was at. He was given these quotes, some of them directly. You can tell by the way they were worded, they were direct quotes at times, especially the opening lines. And he's used that to make Rangers out to be essentially unprofessional, to the point of, if our behaviour is as bad as he's saying, then we'd be bringing the game into disrepute. But we have said nothing about Jordan Jones. When Graham Murray was asked about it, he pretty much said what we've said, which is, we made an offer, it wasn't acceptable, we might get back in, we might not. That's it. That's all he said. Kilmarnock have dragged it on, but we're the one that's unsettling the player. That to me was, that wasn't a logical argument at all. It didn't follow. And that was the reason why I thought that was worth bringing up, because the focus was always going to be on the fees. That's what football fans like to talk about, transfer fees. That's we all love that. That's the stories that get the most attention.
Yeah.
But ultimately, this story went a lot deeper than that. It was this notion that it's easy to criticise Rangers for behaviour all other clubs display because we're big bad Rangers. And now we've got an ex-player, a guy who is a Rangers fan, and is still employed by a rival club, doing exactly that. And that, if that doesn't sum up the sort of position or the sort of esteem that we are held in by the media, nothing does, and I thought that people were maybe missing that point, and that was why I kind of done the article.
If Kilmarnock, and like I say, you should read Alex's article, it is an excellent piece, and if Kilmarnock say nothing and just we've rejected a bid, Rangers' bid is far off our valuation, end of story, this story dies down. I mean, look at the Greg Docherty story. It hasn't had anywhere near the same play in the media as the Jordan Jones story did. Rangers didn't comment, as you said. The comments all came, first of all, from the Kilmarnock manager and then the Kilmarnock captain. So, who is unsettling their player? They caused a week-long media furore, not us. We put in a bid, it was rejected. Now, going back to what we've just been talking about I don't think Jordan Jones is worth £1 million. Okay, I really don't. I don't think Rangers should pay £1 million for him. But it's entirely fair of Kilmarnock to say, well, we do value him at £1 million, and in which case you don't have to sell him to us for anything less than £1 million. But all you need to do is say no, which is what you've done, and that. The end of it, then it's up to Rangers to come in. Rangers may say, look, can we meet? If you are absolutely dead set on it's going to cost £1 million, fantastic, right, great, see if you can get it elsewhere. But to then turn it into, as you say, this confrontational thing, and that is, I think, endemic of something that happens in Scottish football a lot, where it has to be a contest. It can't just be Rangers are trying to sign a player, they think he's worth one thing, Kilmarnock think he's another, can we meet in the middle? Yes, he signs. No, he doesn't. Somebody has to win and somebody has to lose. That's the way it's structured. And Kilmarnock have used this and used their own player and used his, and unsettled him, as you said, to try and curry favour with their fans and the people in Scotland who don't like Rangers. That's exactly what they've done. And if you look at, say, the way Hamilton, who have been in talks about Greg Docherty for over a week now, have rejected bids from Rangers, but how they've conducted themselves against how Kilmarnock conducted themselves, it's a totally different story. And in terms of it's only Rangers who, you pointed this out in a story, where he said, they did it with Jamie Walker, I could name countless others. Okay, name them. Name them. You can't because it didn't happen. Now, Jamie Walker, what happened was, the only thing I can recall was that Pedro was asked about it and said, yeah, he's a player we're looking at, that we like, obviously, but we'll need to see if we can get a deal done. This weekend, Derek McInnes said exactly the same thing about a Hamilton Accies player. Where is the storm? There isn't one. It's exactly the same tactic. So, straight away, and Alex's article points this out, there's two logical fallacies. I could name countless others. You won't, because you can't name countless others, and there's only one club doing it. Clearly, clearly that's not the case. So again, it goes back to this idea that clubs are trying to get one over on Rangers because there is somehow seen to be some advantage to doing so. And I find it puzzling, the example being that Hearts, who in the end turned down a bid, the last bid from Rangers was around about 700,000 for Jamie Walker, ended up selling Jamie Walker months later when he hadn't kicked another ball for them for 300 grand. Tell me how that's a good deal for Hearts. I can't fathom why that worked out well for a Hearts club that have been bleeding money due to this new start. I don't get it. It's maybe just me. Explain it to me, Alex.
Hearts took a risk, essentially, thinking that Walker would give them more than on the pitch than we were going to offer them financially. It didn't work out. They had to sell him now because there was no point trying to keep him till the end of the season and not getting anything. And that's that. And Hearts made a big mistake there. I think they got one up on Rangers. Yeah, you never sold us Jamie Walker. You can put that as an addendum to the you never sold us Scott Allen DVD. But ultimately, it didn't really work out for them, and that someone at Hearts, I'm sure, has been asked the question. I would imagine Anne Budge knows what she's doing. She's just had to get the old credit limit extended for the stand and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure at some point she said to someone, what about this 400k we could have had budgeted here, But there you go. The difference between Hamilton and Kilmarnock in my eyes is that Hamilton are acting professionally, not only for themselves, but with the player. They see Greg Docherty as someone who a great player for them, a cracking player for them, and he's probably worth more than the offers we've made, and I think he's worth more than Hamilton's alleged asking price, personally. But Hamilton see themselves as a club who do not hold players back, and this is why they get so many talented youngsters going there. There's a list for Hamilton. There's boys. Even if you take Ali Crawford, not that long ago was being linked with bigger moves. It just didn't quite work out for him. But this is the reason why, if you were a parent of a kid at 12 coming in and he's going to go somewhere, and Hamilton are a club who are interested in developing him as a youngster, you would be very open to that because of the way they treat their players once they become professionals. They don't hold them back. Kilmarnock here are, and I described this at the time when we spoke about it on one of the daily updates. Kilmarnock are almost like the spurned partner in a divorce, using the kid to try and get their own way and make points and get the big moral high ground because look at me, look at what he's doing to him. No, well, hold on a second, what are you doing by even mentioning it? It's a lot like that. Kilmarnock can't really consider Jordan Jones in this situation. Hearts never really considered Jamie Walker. He had to spend months on a lower wage than he would have had he went to Rangers, lower opportunities. Yeah, he's got his move to Wigan now, but I'm pretty sure at the time he was desperate to sign for us. And Hearts didn't really take that into consideration either. A fair deal could have been made. So, yeah, in many ways, Kilmarnock, by doing this, are potentially cutting their nose off to spite their face, and it won't make sense if the only way it'll make sense is if they somehow get that £1 million from somewhere. And right now, that doesn't seem to be happening.
No.
There's no noise about that at all. A story which mentioned Norwich. I think Norwich are the new. Do you remember back in the day whenever we were linked to a player under Alex McLeish, Bolton were linked with him?
Yeah, it was always Bolton.
Every single time.
Yep. We always just
Norwich
beat Bolton to a player, yeah. But Norwich seem to go for everyone. They've signed Kenny McLean, of course, scotching any rumours about a pre-contract. And you're absolutely right. There's been so many interlinked Norwich stories with Naismith, Martin, Jones this window. Maybe it's because they're so far away down in East Anglia that it's hard for them to come out and say, actually, this is bollocks.
Yeah,
they don't notice.
Essentially, yeah.
They don't notice all of it's going on.
It might just be that we all, all these clubs use similar scouting systems, so it's kind of lazy journalism,
Yeah,
if that scout's looking at them, then they guys probably are as well,
you're right. It could well be, or a well-known face who's a scout for them, and they see him at games and can say, well, the Norwich scout is there. So yeah, it could well be that. Okay then, folks, thank you very much for listening. As I say, Alex and I had planned to talk a lot more about yesterday's match in Fraserburgh, but so we hope you enjoyed what we did talk about today. If you have enjoyed it and you like to hear more from the likes of me, Alex, talking about a whole range of things, you get all of that and more on our Patreon site. You just go to patreon.com/Heart and Hand, and if you do, you will get tons of content, so much content, more content than you can shake a shitty stick at. Just today we've launched our new tactics show with Adam Thornton. He had guests Ali Bain and Dougie Wright on there discussing, for those of you who like your in-depth tactical things, there's a daily update with all the Rangers news and rumours that I do every day. There's the Advocate years, Millennial Bears, Rangers Bet with the hilarious Jack Shaw, there's the quiz, there's the Q&As with Ian Hogg. There's so much, and over 2,000 people now, amazingly, are subscribed to it. And if you want to just go and have a look at the feedback, you can go and read the comments and see what the users think of it so far. Satisfaction ratings are very, very high indeed. Please give us a try. It's only $1.99 per month. I think you'll enjoy it, and it'll stop you having to go and listen to people who hate us talking about us. And if you want to be a part of it, we're encouraging anyone who's got an idea for a show, come on. We've got a place now you can put it, and we've got an audience there that will listen to it and give you feedback and let you know how you're doing. So that's a place to go. If you want to talk to me on Twitter, I'm at ibroxrocks, and Alex is
at Strider80. Just one thing, David, before we go. Are we doing predictions, or are we going to
just about to ask you?
Okay.
Go on. Right, you brought it up.
I brought it up. I'm going to say 2-1 win for Rangers on Wednesday night.
I am going to say a 2-1 win for Rangers, and I think Jason Cummings off the bench for the winner.
Oh, that would be lovely. That would be very nice. I'm going to struggle with him. I'll say this just now for anybody listening, right? And it's just, I know what I'm like. I struggled with Joe Garner a bit as well. Just, sheer stupidity at that level sometimes just bothers me. But I suspect Cummings will hold a bit more of a special place in my heart because he's a better footballer and he's funnier.
Yes.
And if he scores a winner off the bench in his debut, I'll be watching very carefully to see these celebrations because I'd imagine it'll be pretty fun, and then his after-match interview will be even better. But yeah, that would be nice. So yeah, 2-1 Rangers is what we're both saying. That's what's going to happen, folks.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our track record is second to a lot of people's, but at least if you're in the bookies and you're going, oh, then fuck it, stick a fiver on, because that way if it goes wrong, you can blame me and Alex. Yes. So I can't think of anything better than that. Okay, folks, thank you very much for joining us. Alex, thank you for being my guest tonight.
David, a pleasure as always.
And I'd like to thank our executive producers in London, Mr. Mitely and Miss Paul Miles. We will be back on Thursday with the reaction to the Aberdeen game and the preview of the Ross County game at the weekend. Until then, thank you very much for listening. I'll talk to you on Thursday. Cheers, bye.